Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we are back, y'all. We are back to discuss the second half of the Married at First Sight after party with Keisha Knight Pulliam and also with MM and Ike. And if you guys haven't watched my regular episode review, please go ahead and watch that. Also, I did the first half of the after party where we got to hear MM's side of the story. And I had a few things to say about that as well. So definitely check out that video. But we are here for the second part, the last part, because we're going to be doing the she said, he said. That's what we're going to talk about. But before we get started, y'all, please be sure to like the video. Please, please, please give me a thumbs up. I need the likes. Please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment. And if you've been here a couple of times, go ahead and subscribe to my channel as well. I really appreciate you guys doing all three, subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment. But we're going to get right into it, y'all. We're going to get right into hearing Ike's side of the story.
Shelly, Katie, it's great to see you guys again. How does it feel being back? Good? How you feeling? We're going to talk. We're going to talk. How are you guys feeling currently about the state of your marriage?
I'm kind of in the air about what's going on right now. Feeling a little disrespected, so it's just kind of iffy.
Okay, so he already talking about he feeling disrespected. He's kind of in the air. You're right. You do live in the clouds. He lives in the clouds. He lives in the fantasy world. So, and honestly, his description, his depiction of how he's feeling is probably correct. When he said he feels in the air, in the mist, in the fantasy, in the fairy tale clouds, I guess you're right, Ike. I guess you're right. We got to remember that this is a whole, I don't know if it's a year later when they're filming this Married at First Sight. It may not be that long, but it's definitely several months. So I'm always interested to see that, he's had a lot of time to reflect. Let's see if he comes here changing any of his story or coming with a little bit more sense. But so far, he's talking about how he's feeling disrespected, but yet we really haven't seen those many moments of disrespect. One moment when MM called him a clown and she said, give me a clown, I'll give you a circus. Now that right there, that was disrespectful. But so what? He deserved it. He deserved it.
At best.
I want to get into that as we go because I want to understand what is MM doing to disrespect you. Think about that so we can come back to it.
Okay, there go Keisha Knight Pulliam's warning. She gave him a little bit of an advanced head start because she already knows that he's got problems communicating. He's not a clear communicator. He doesn't communicate. He doesn't articulate himself well, his thoughts, his feelings, none of it. So basically she said, okay, I'm going to give you a head start. I'm going to let you all know right now I'm going to need specifics. Right? So go ahead, sit over there in the corner, start thinking about some specifics because what we don't want to happen is when I come back to you for your answer, I don't want no vagueness, no ambiguity, no beating around the bush. So Keisha Knight Pulliam has already put him on warning. When I get back to you, I want some real doggone answer specifics. That's what I want, Ike. Let's see if he's going to be able to give it to her and give it to us too.
Katie, you and MM look back on your wedding day, but things quickly got derailed. Let's watch that back.
So how do you feel about these vows now?
I think that I meant what I said when I said it.
That didn't really answer the question I asked.
Okay, she said, how do you feel about these vows now that you kind of know who I am?
So how do you feel about these vows now?
I think that I meant what I said when I said it.
So she asked, how do you feel about these vows now? Now in the present. What he responded to was, I meant what I said when I said it. That's not responsive. Because she isn't asking, how did you feel about the vows when you wrote them? Because that's what he responded to. He responded to the question, how did you feel about those vows when you wrote them? And what he said was, I meant them then when I said them. She's asking, how do you feel about the vows now? Meaning, do they still mean the same to you, or has your opinion changed? So it's not responsive. But I'll say this. Her response was, that's not the question I asked.
That didn't really answer the question I asked.
I wasn't trying to answer your question.
So then she says, that wasn't the question that I asked. So this is the part where I think where MM can do a little bit better communication. I agree with her that the answer that he gave to her was not purposely answering the question that she asked. So when you're talking to a person and they don't answer the question that you ask, I don't really believe that the response should be, that's not what I asked. That's what you say when you're frustrated with a person. And I know MM is frustrated with him. So that's why I'm going to give MM a pass, because I understand she's frustrated. But here's the thing where I also see EKG's point of view. MM, in her response to EKG, she does sometimes have a counter response to what he does that can also seem a bit harsh. When you're talking to a person and you ask them a question and they don't necessarily answer the question that you asked, you can do another thing. Besides doing what MM said was, that wasn't the question that I asked, which is a little bit spicy, which is a little bit snappy. Let's be real, people. It really is. What you could do is you could rephrase the question another kind of way. And what you could say is, oh, okay, that's good. I'm glad you meant what you, I'm glad that you meant what you said when you said it. But do you still mean it today? You could have clarified your question. You could have asked another direct question to sort of maybe then have him get closer to answering your question. This is why I say both of them actually can get better with their communication. But once MM snapped back a little bit, then he's going to snap back and he's going to come back with his nastiness saying, I'm not here to answer your question, which is a horrible, horrible, horrible answer, because it goes back to what I said. If you're not here to talk to me in sort of a conversation, which is back and forth, then why are we here? Because if you're just going to answer questions or have dialogue about something that really isn't pertinent to the conversation, then that's really not a conversation. You could go talk to a wall. You might as well talk to a wall, EKG, if you're not going to sort of call and respond to whatever our conversation is about. So, you know what? This just further shows you that this little contempt that EKG has for MM, it goes deep, it goes long, it goes wild. And I'm telling you, I don't think it just started with MM. I think she triggers him. She absolutely triggers him. And honestly, I bet I could say that he triggers her. We've been talking a lot about how MM is triggering EKG, because I'm telling you. But I also think that Ike triggers MM, because I think MM is efficient. And when you're efficient and you want to get to the bottom of things and you want to get to the point, it's sometimes very frustrating to talk to a person that goes around the block 5 times. So honestly, both of their style of communication is triggering to each other. They both would have to learn how to communicate differently with each other. And that's what I'm saying. No matter who MM is with, whether she's with EKG or another man, she may not encounter another man who's as evasive as Ike is, because like I said, he's extreme. But you could easily be in a conversation with a person who doesn't answer your question. That happens all the time. And so what you would have to learn how to do is, how do you have a conversation with a person who steers the conversation in a different direction? And what you're really trying to do is you're trying to get them back on track. How do you get a person back on track more gently than the way that MM does it? And what MM tries to do is, when a person gets off track in a conversation, she tries to jerk them back over to get back in line with the conversation. It is that pulling, it is that jerking that Ike doesn't like. And so this is why I'm saying this is an area of improvement for MM, even in her communication going forward. You have to learn how to communicate with people even when they don't have the best communication style or they don't communicate like you. It's hard to sit back and say, well, I could be a good communicator if everybody else knew how to communicate. No, because oftentimes communication is hard for a lot of people. So you can't always expect perfection and good communicators out here in the world. And that means you can't limit yourself to being able to have conversation with people that don't have good communication. You find them everywhere. You find them at work. You find them when you go to a restaurant. You find them everywhere. So this is what I'm talking about, improving not only the way you communicate, but the way you respond to a person who's a bad communicator is a lesson everybody can learn, whether they're with an Ike or not, whether they're just walking out here in the street. But you know what? He's nasty. He ain't worth practicing on, though. I stick to that. All these little tips I'm giving, he ain't worth practicing on. He's worth walking away from. Walking away from. Because ain't nothing to gain from this except learning how to practice. That's about it. That's all you can do with him is learn how to practice steering and wrangling cows, wrangling cats. That's what it's like.
Got it.
We can't just enjoy moments. You have to go and put a big stick in your hand and hit the bear over the head. If you keep hitting me upside the head with your answer stick, you will see less and less and less of me.
See, that was over the top. That was so over the top when he said, your big stick hit me over the head. This goes all back to his insecurity who MM has. But if he were really able to really articulate what he's talking about is he's saying, I wish we could have, let's say, a more organic conversation, as opposed to the conversation being in the exact linear path that you want, MM. Now, like I said, I have a big problem with his style, but what MM could practice in this moment is she could practice weaving both of the two in. Now, is it going to be a long path around the conversation? It probably will. It won't be the most efficient route. There's a thing that says the most efficient route to any place from point A to point B is a straight line. This is what you learn in math, engineering, science. The quickest route from point A to point B is a straight line. And sometimes when you're a STEM major or a science major, or you're dealing with facts, which M is, she's in the nursing profession, we want to go on that straight line. Give me the exact answer so we can quickly move through this conversation. But when you're in a romantic conversation, sometimes your conversations may meander. They may meander. They may not be a straight path. They may wind around like this. You know what I'm saying? And so what you have to get used to when you're in a romantic relationship and you are a person who likes a straight path, you do have to get a little bit used to the meandering, the less efficiency. Because otherwise, what you're requiring of your partner is to think and do things just like you. But let's keep going.
All right. What did she do to beat you with a stick in what you mean in this example? Like what specifics?
It was more of like a culmination of things. Like so many.
What are the things?
The conversations that we had off camera, and it was, hey, I need some time and some space, and her not respecting.
Okay, so once again, he doesn't answer the question, because when he responded to MM and he says, if you keep beating me with a stick, like a poke in the bear, you're going to get this nasty answer. Keisha Knight asks him, what did she do to beat you with a stick? First of all, he could have even just started in that moment. Already, he's talking about a whole nother moment. But wait a minute, we're talking about this moment right here, right now. You ever be in a conversation with someone and you're asking them why you did something in that moment, and they start to bring up something a year ago, 2 years ago? No. Right now, what did I do right now to elicit this response from you? Right now. And already you can see from Ike that he's taking Keisha Knight's question from, what have we done? What did she do to beat you with a stick in this moment? He's already made this moment about a whole nother time. He's now about to meander. He's about to meander off the road and go and talk about a whole nother conversation. Now, what most people will do is they will jerk him back And they will say, nope, I want to come back to this moment. I want to come back to this moment. Stick on this moment, stick on this moment, stick on this moment. And all that's going to do to him, like he's saying, is it's going to irritate him. It's going to inflame him because he doesn't want to stick on the moment. He wants to meander. Like I said, these tips that I'm even talking about, they're useless on a person like Ike because he wants to meander. He really does want to meander. But if you're ever out there in the world and you're actually dealing with a person who does meander, but they are worth trying to improve your communication with, you do need to handle it differently than You do need to actually try to gently coax them back to the conversation versus jerking them back to the conversation. But like I said, he ain't worth practicing on, but we got to learn something from this in order to be better out here in the world. But let me tell you, this man, throw him away. He's trash. He ain't worth working with. He really is not. But let's hear about this moment way back in the day about why he tells that she pokes him with the stick, that it don't have nothing to do with the moment in time we're talking about. But let's listen and watch him meander on this windy road.
It was more of like a culmination of things. Like so many.
What are the things?
The conversations that we had off camera, and it was, hey, I need some time and some space, and her not respecting that time and that space.
Okay, so he said it's a combination of things. So when we're talking to him in this moment, he's saying, okay, well, it's not just this moment, it's a culmination of things. And the culmination of things is because off camera, we had a conversation about giving me some time and space. And what she did was she didn't respect that. She kept calling me and texting me. Okay. Now, this goes back to us saying maybe she's overly ambitious. But I would not equate someone incessantly calling and texting you with hitting you over the head with a stick. Actually, they're not the same thing. You could say that she didn't respect you wanting space. I got it. You can say that she was too persistent. I got it. You can say that she was too pushy. I got it. But the metaphor that you're using, where she actually weaponized something and beat you over the head, beating someone over the head with a stick symbolizes that you feel attacked. You feel attacked. Someone calling you incessantly, I don't know, is that the same as beating you over the head with a stick? Yeah, it's irritating. It's pestering. It could be, like you said, her being a little bit too persistent, but he doesn't use the right words to describe the moment. It goes back to what I said before about him. He completely inflames situations. And when I tell you that this goes back to time prior to I'm so convinced of it, because oftentimes when you hear him explain situations, it's actually not the situation that happened in this moment. It's actually a situation that happened, I think, at another time in his life. That's what I really believe. But let's keep hearing the rest of what he's saying.
She do.
She would blow my phone up. Like, hey, she asked me a question and continue to ask me a question. I give her the answer that I have, and she just was like, that's not enough answer. I didn't have enough answer.
Can I give you a perspective?
And there you go again. He says, I would give her the answer that I have. You wouldn't give her the answer to her question. You would give her the answer that you have, right? There's a withholding. You see, that's the other part of Ike. He doesn't just withhold like talking about himself and what he does. He also withholds trying to please you or trying to be in union with you. That's why sometimes I think that what he does is deliberate. It's deliberate, okay? Because the withholding is, I don't actually want to appease you. I don't want to give you anything. And this started from the very beginning. He doesn't want to share with He doesn't want to give with because a lot of ways he feels threatened by And like I told you, he looks at as a threat to him. And I don't think it's just a threat, financial threat. It's just not a career threat or a financial threat. He feels threatened by him because it's almost like he feels like there's an imminent threat from her. It's really, really wild.
From what I've witnessed, I know in a lot of times you feel like you may be giving a direct answer, but my friend, you don't. A lot of times when someone like I just did, I'll ask you a very, very specific question. And instead of answer the question that I've asked you, you answer the question you want to answer. You see what I'm saying? So if someone is trying to get to know you and they ask you a question and every time you answer a different question and then get mad at them for asking their original question again because you ain't ever answered the question, how would you feel?
Yeah, I might be aggravated.
Yeah? It may cause you not to show up as the best version of yourself too, right?
True.
Okay.
Okay, so in this moment, he took very good constructive advice for Keisha Knight, probably because, like I said, this is being filmed 8-9 months later, and he's had some time to reflect, and he's realized that he probably did some things on camera that made him look stupid. So now he's trying to come in here and act like he's more willing to listen. I also think there's another part of it that I don't even think Ike understands his own emotions. I actually don't think he understands his own emotions. And so I think in that moment, Keisha Knight tried to actually explain his emotions to him. And she also tried to say, how would you feel? Right? She's actually asking him some questions about his own feelings, and he responded a little bit better. This is why I said that he needs therapy, because Ike doesn't actually understand his own emotions. He doesn't even understand where they come from. All of this resistance to talking to someone, sharing with someone, I don't think he even knows where it comes from. He would need a real therapist to say, hey, let's go back so I can show you where some of these thoughts and emotions are coming from, so you can even understand that, Ike, that even though you're calling them your feelings, there may not even be your feelings. They might be the little boy's feelings from when you were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, but they're not your feelings here at 40 something years old. A therapist really needs to help him understand that these feelings that you're having, this persona that you're taking on, is actually really the persona of like a 15-year-old kid, and you're still doing the dirty work, or you're still doing the protective work for that 15-year-old child. But that 15-year-old child is 40 now. You should now be able to speak for yourself. But what you're still doing is you're still operating. Your 40-year-old self is still protecting the 14, 15-year-old child. And as a result, the 40-year-old is not showing up like a 40-year-old. It's really, really wild. A therapist needs to get with Ike and explain this to him. Until someone can sit with him and make him see what he's doing and understand it, there's not going to be any change. This was an attempt by Keisha Knight to a little bit explain it to him. He sat there and listened. He nodded. He acknowledged that he would get frustrated, but I don't know if it sunk in enough. Maybe he's had some therapy since the show actually was recorded. Who knows?
You missed a lot. Okay. You missed a lot.
What did you miss?
We went to a football game and we were hanging out with people, and just her conversation and how she was dealing with these circles of people was one way.
What did she do? I need you to explain.
I don't want to go into like ultimate details.
Okay, right there, that irritates me. He's about to give an example. We're all getting excited. Give me an example when she beats a person over the stick. And what he's saying is, we were at a football game with a bunch of her friends, and she was hanging out with these people, and she was communicating them with in one type of way. So that's what he says first. So he's about to give us an example. Let's hear the rest of the story.
Okay. Because just the people that were in the room, and just but how she talked to people was one way, and then the woman crossing the street on the way home, she damn near ran her over, and I was
okay. So now he's drawing a contrast. He's saying the people we were hanging out with, she was talking about in one way, but then when we were driving across the road, she darn near ran a woman off the road. So first of all, she was driving. You didn't drive. Why didn't you drive? Why is she driving? That's what the first thing I'm going to say. Another example of why were you in the passenger seat? He's been in the passenger seat this whole time in this relationship. First of all, you went to a football game with some friends, and now you're talking about she treated them one way, and then the other way, now she's driving around the road and she's going to treat the woman who's crossing the street another way. We're going to hear the rest of the story. But what we already hear is that more than likely, he's drawn the contrast between she treats her friends one way, but she treats complete strangers another way. Now, I'm going to go a little bit deeper because I remember some of MM's friends. I remember seeing the girlfriends that were supporting her. And MM hangs around would seem to be very quality people, right? Educated, smart, beautiful women who knew what was going on. You remember the young lady that was met EKG. What I believe is that MM's circle of friends, he was also intimidated by. I think he wasn't just intimidated by MM. When he got around her circle of friends who are all probably educated, who all probably have nice careers, probably middle class lifestyle, right? He also became further intimidated by her crowd, because it happens. Let me tell you, if a man is intimidated with you, wait once until he starts hanging around your crowd and he sees who you hang around. He's going to become further irritated. So he's bringing up a scenario about when they went out with some of her friends, and now he's going to start talking about how she treated them one way, but she's going to treat some random person on the street a different kind of way. Let's hear the rest of his story.
And they're like, yo, what's wrong? Move, bitch, get out the way. Literally was the words.
Okay, that's a pretty inflammatory comment he's saying she said. He's saying that when there was a woman crossing the street and she's driving, MM said, move, bitch, get out the way. Right? Now, I'm going to tell y'all, I really do want to hear MM's response to this. Because if, in fact, MM actually did say that, I would say that's a problem if that's the way you respond to people on the street. I would say that. I would say it's a problem. So I don't know if he's lying, y'all, or I don't know if he's lying about this moment. I don't know if I really don't know, but I'm going to tell you, if it is the truth, it's a problem. And what that would point to what we're seeing with MM is she's one way in public, and then behind closed doors, she's another way. That's what this would point to, if he's not lying.
How she treated regular people. I don't put that.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is you went to a football game and there were a certain caliber of people, and she treated them in high regard.
Right.
However, when there was a random woman on the street that had no perceived value to her, she treated in a very different way.
Right.
We never saw examples.
Okay, so Keisha and I laid it out, and he said, yes, that's it. Okay, so once again, it took Keisha and I and also me to sift through his conversation. Even in that explanation that he gave, it really isn't all the way formulated. You see, that's the problem with EKG. Even when he's trying to communicate, he's not a good communicator. Which I'm saying, maybe this is why he's so much into writing things down and music, because verbally, in terms of telling a story, explaining himself, or anything like that, he's actually not very good. And what he's saying is, if she did this, what he's saying, I don't mess with people like that. I really don't mess with them at all.
Her belittling you. These are things that you bring up. Were these examples that you saw with other people that made you feel this way, and then you translated it to you? Or were there comments or anything made that made you feel as though she felt you were beneath her?
It was how she treated other people, and I could help those people.
Okay, there it is. Vindication. Keisha Knight specifically asked him, has it been things that she has said to you that has made you feel less than or belittled? Or it is things that she has said to other people? And he clearly said it was to other people. So all this time, when you're talking about being hit over the head with a stick, when you're talking about being belittled, you have not once given us an example of how she did it directly to you. Not a one. The only example that you've given us thus far is an example of how she did it to a complete stranger. Okay? Keisha Knight Pulliam did very, very well. And she says, so you're transferring what she did to other people to you. And what he said was yes, because I can see myself in those other people. Okay, let's peel it back. So if you see yourself in those other people who you feel are of less caliber, and you see yourself in those people, you're automatically telling me you see yourself as less caliber compared to MM. There you go. Because what you just said was she treats people of lower quality, of lesser quality in a worse way. Let's just go with his truth. Let's not even say he's lying about what she did. Let's say he is correct. You said that he treats people of lesser quality horribly. And what you do is you see yourself in those people, which means you see yourself as those people. You see yourself of lesser quality in MM. It's like saying, oh, she treats homeless people horribly, and I see myself in those people because I'm homeless too. There you go. It's like when you see a person, let's say a white person, saying racist things about a black person, you see yourself in that person because you're black too. So that means, Ike, you have personally identified with people who are less than, as you say, less stature, less social stature, less economic stature. You have personally identified with those people. So you have just admitted that you identified as less than in her. Okay. And this goes back to what I was saying was, I believe that he was previously assaulted, because what he's also done is another transference. When he's talking about these sort of aggressiveness with sort of the sexual behavior of MM, get in the shower with me, all this other kind of stuff. Once again, he is over identifying that about another moment. You see what I'm saying? Another moment. Once again, it isn't a real moment that happened to her. She has not essayed him. She has not done anything close to it. But what he has done is exactly what he did in the moment with this woman crossing the street. What he is saying is, I'm going to transfer this moment back to another real moment, which was back in the time when there was a woman in my life, or there was someone in my life, I still think it was a woman, that was sexually aggressive with me, and it didn't turn out well. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lump MM along with that too. Do we see all this transference that he's doing? Like I said, he needs therapy. He needs a real therapist to show him that these moments that you're creating in these mind, these crisis moments, these emergencies, these, sounding the alarm, this predatory behavior that you're describing, these aren't really real things. They really aren't. You're taking small incidences and you're blowing them up. You're really, really blowing them up.
Oh, okay. Did you tell her that?
Yeah.
So how would she know if you don't tell her?
I just imagine that people know how to treat people.
But no.
Okay. Keisha Knight Pulliam said, did you tell her that? And he said no. And he says, I would just imagine that people know how to treat people. One is, did you tell her? No, because he doesn't communicate. He doesn't know how to communicate. And second of all, he says, I would just imagine. You imagine because that's what I've said about Ike. He lives in an imaginary world. In this world that Ike lives in, this imaginary world, he's already determined the rules of that world. He's determined what a woman should do, what she should look like, how she should think, how she should talk, how she should behave. He's also created the role for himself. He's created these roles in this imaginary world, but his roles don't really translate into the real world. He believes that there shouldn't be any communication necessary because he's written all the script. He's written the script of both her and him in this imaginary world. And he says, when I take this imaginary world out into the real world, there shouldn't be any need for communication. Why? Why shouldn't there be a need? Because in his world, it was created in his mind and everybody should understand his mind, but he's a poor communicator. Like I said, everybody should be aware of what happened to Ike, how it happened, and how it affects him here in the present. That's what he thinks. And we should all be able to interpret his feelings. He needs therapy. I don't know how many times I have to say it. He needs therapy.
No, you have to communicate. People don't learn stuff through osmosis. People don't know what you're thinking or how you're perceiving things.
True.
So how do you hold someone accountable for something that they are unaware of that is rubbing you the wrong way?
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
I should have communicated with her.
Okay.
He said, you're right, Keisha Knight Pulliam, I should have. But the problem is that even though he may say he should have, he doesn't know how to. He doesn't know how to. So even in this moment, if you take it as a moment where maybe he's learned something, he's learned that he should have, but now the next step is he doesn't know how to. That's his next obstacle. How to, and what he doesn't also know is he doesn't know why he hasn't been able to do it. There's so many answers that he needs. He needs to not only acknowledge that he hasn't done it, he has to acknowledge why he hasn't done it. How did it happen? Where did it start? And then he has to learn how to do it. And then he's got to practice it. He's got a long road, a very long road.
Over segment, if you could have responded to MM differently in regards to her questions, would you?
I think that I would be more direct in my answer. Not necessarily trying to appease what she, give her an answer that she wants, but give a truthful answer and just try to be as real as possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what he said was he would try to be more direct, and he wouldn't necessarily want to appease her and give her the answer she wants, but give her more of a truthful answer. So he's admitting that he's not truthful. He's also admitting that he purposely would evade her questions, right? It's when he talks about poking the bear, he poked the bear too, because like I said, she not only triggered him, he triggered her. The way that Ike answers questions is no different from if you're talking to a person and they don't give you an answer at all. You ever talk to a person, they just look at you and they don't answer your question? Well, in a lot of ways, giving you an answer to a question you never asked can be just as frustrating. You see? And so what he's saying is, I don't necessarily want to appease her. So once again, he's not really all the way there in wanting to do what needs to happen to have really good dialogue. Because if you're really invested in having good communication, you actually want to be able to understand the person and they understand you. If you go into a conversation not really in your heart wanting to understand them or also having them understand you, the communication is going to be horribly. So he's still talking about a situation where he's going in a lot of ways defiant. I'll be more direct, but I don't want to give her any answers just to appease her. What? You should still want to answer the question. It's crazy.
Why do you still want to be with him?
There's a chance that he has not realized that these are defense mechanisms for him.
In that question where Dr. P asked her, why do you want to still be with him? What she's saying is there's a chance that he can be fixed. Because she's saying there's a chance that he believes that these are defense mechanisms. We know that they're defense mechanisms. We do know that they're that. And it looks like MM, probably through her training as a nurse, she's probably done some psychological studies. Of course, you have to do that as a nurse. She's realized that a lot of this anger he has isn't directed towards her. But what I don't like about her response is that she's willing to hang in there and take the blows from him. You have to protect yourself about people who are dangerous, even if their danger is coming in there in emotional abuse. And what I don't like about MM is she's willing to keep herself exposed to the danger of Ike. So I think what Dr. P is saying is, you know that he crazy, right? So why do you still want to be married to him? And what she's saying is because there's hope for him. There's hope for him. So I want to stick in there. No, you haven't been married that long. You haven't invested that much with him for you wanted to be willing to put yourself on the line like this. This isn't a normal marriage. This isn't a marriage that you've been in for a long time, that you've known this person. And so you don't just want to run away from the marriage. No. There's certain situations where you cut and run. Cut and run because you could lose even bigger. It's like Vegas. You go to Vegas. You plan on coming to Vegas. You plan on winning. But you're sitting at a table, a poker table, a blackjack table. You $200 down. Do you get up and walk away? Or do you stick in there and keep saying, hey, maybe I ought to just stick in here and keep trying to win my money back? No. Get up and walk away. It's a bad dealer. Get up and walk away and at least go to another table. Good Lord.
Could explain a lot. I don't know.
I think you just hit it on the head. Can you lead with that thought process when you're interacting with him?
Yes.
Do you agree with Dr. P's advice or assessment of the situation?
I do agree.
Okay.
I mean, as you can see, I kind of stay on the defense. It's not on purpose. It's more like it's a defense mechanism. It's like, hey, what's coming my way? Working with kids.
What happened that made you
I just work with a whole bunch of kids.
Okay.
So,
Okay, that was a deflection. So he at least admitted that he's always on defense. So for all those people out there who believe it's all MM's fault, he just admitted he's always like that. He's like that even before he met MM. Like I said, this is an old problem. Then what he just did was, Keisha Knight said, what happened to you? She even knows. Everybody knows something happened to him. What made you just like this? And what he said was, because I work with a bunch of kids. Once again, not the truth. Not the truth. Do I know that working with kids or working with teachers is difficult? Yes, it's very difficult working with youth, especially if maybe you're dealing with troubled youth. I have know what type of youth he works with. But the fact but because you say the reason why I am such on the defense is because of kids, it's still no ownership in that. No, my friend Ike, it is not because of the kids that you work with that you just started working with this year, your students this year, or even over the course of your career, whether you've been doing this for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. This started long before then. This goes back to him not wanting to go back to the original way he became defensive. He don't want to go back to it. He don't really want to talk about it. He blamed everybody except the original perpetrator who did it to him because he don't want to talk about it.
I'm having to defend myself from whatever's about to happen. And it's just trying to like counteract the situation.
He said he always got to defend himself around whatever's about to happen with kids. And that's why he's always on the defense. So now all of a sudden he's painting himself once again as a victim of the kids. He's a victim. He's a perpetual victim. He's a victim of MM. He's a victim of Pastor Cal when they try to narrow him down. And now he's a victim of all the kids that he's teaching or whatever he's doing in school. Then you need to get away. Let me tell you something. If you're telling me, Ike, that you're a victim of all the children that you do whatever with, teach them music or whatever else, then why are you still doing that job? Why would you want to hang around in an environment in which you feel as if they make you always on the defense and you are a victim of them? He blames the wrong thing all the time. Could those things be contributing? Yes. Could those things be a trigger? Yes. Just like MM can trigger him, just like MM cannot do things perfectly, so can those children. But he places all the blame in the wrong place. This man needs help, y'all. He really, really needs help to figure this out. But anyway, that's all we got, y'all. That's all we got for this Married at First Sight second episode of After Party. And I will see you for the regular episode this upcoming week. Talk to y'all later. Bye.